Welcome to my reading conference. Um, if there's a ton of noises going around, it's because we're currently setting up Christmas in my house. So there's Christmas music playing, and people are walking around curling ribbon and putting up stuff. So anyway, I digress. This quarter, I think I've gotten a whole lot better at discovering the importance of characters other than just their plot significance, and I've been able to see the symbolism and literary purpose behind the characters. At the beginning of the year and before that, characters were characters, and they were vessels that moved the plot along, and in my mind, not much more. I remember when I was reading Tale of Two Cities, the two guys, Darnier and Carton, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing those right, but I was like, oh, wow, what a coincidence they look alike, and what a coincidence they like the same person, and all that kind of stuff. And now after we've talked about doppelgangers and character foils and all that stuff, I'm realizing, oh, it wasn't just plot convenience. Well, it kind of was. But further than just plot convenience, it was something purposeful to show how two different people with the same personalities make different choices and stuff like that. And again, with Beowulf, I struggled. It's a big muscly guy. Cool. What's the importance behind that? And again, after discussion and seeing that, I see that more. I struggled a lot in Rime of Ancient Mariner. I think it was mainly because of the language. And frankly, I don't think I was quite invested in that story. It wasn't really piquing my interest. It was mystical things happening in nature, and that's all I really saw. So I didn't put as much effort into it because I didn't care about it, which I've been working on. I wrote in my reading journal, I have that here, about the albatross. With the reading journal questions, I was just trying to get very blanketed stuff down. And I wrote, the albatross does have some mystic / spiritual quality about it. The albatross was a good omen. It was a representation of the goodness of nature. So just trying to get something down. I wasn't seeing the full purpose of the symbolism behind the albatross. And even after we talked about the life and death woman, I wrote, the woman wins, her prize is the mariner. The woman is called life and death, and the fact she won the mariner is a comment on how guilt plagues a person. Part of them is trapped in death. And that was only after I had talked to you about it. I wasn't sure if that was even the thing, and I wasn't confident in my dissecting of the piece. And that can be seen in all the notes I took in red pen during our discussion, which is stuff, ooh, I just dropped paper, was just stuff that I hadn't had before. And I think Rime of Ancient Mariner was the one where I had the most of things that I didn't really see about characters and just different things like that. Hamlet was a lot easier for me, and I think that was mainly because I had read Hamlet before, so I was reading less for the plot and the actual story and more for okay, what can I get from this that's symbolic or of the literary nature. In Act 4, I believe, is when we did the Fortinbras and Hamlet questions, and that just clicked with me. I was able to understand that they were each other's foils along with Polonius, and I had written, basically, I'm just going to read the entire paragraph. Fortinbras and Hamlet are both the sons of kings whose fathers were killed / murdered. Additionally, both of their uncles ruled the land they were meant to inherit. Fortinbras is seeking to take back Denmark in order to avenge his father. Hamlet, on the other hand, wants to kill Claudius in order to avenge his father. What's more important is that both of them have missions that will ultimately be in vain. The risk outweighs the reward. Where Hamlet is seeking revenge that may destroy a nation, Fortinbras is seeking revenge in order to gain a land that cannot bury the soldiers that had been killed in battle. These are the same people, but with different motives. So just seeing how these two characters are very, very, very similar. And even in, sorry, I need to find the quote in my reading journal, comparing Ophelia and Hamlet and how both of the characters go mad in the course of the play, but for two very different reasons, and I feel like those two reasons are to show something about the other. I had written, I think this was in for the act think it's Act 4 again, our Act 4 reading questions. Hamlet's madness only confused people. It did not invoke any emotion to those who witnessed it. Ophelia's madness, however, seems to be exposing truth in individuals that they themselves cannot explain. Ophelia's words seem to be more intentional than Hamlet's. And in red, in my margins, I had written, Hamlet's madness is to hide, Ophelia's is to expose. So just getting better at pointing out those little nuances in text about things happening similarly between characters. Frankenstein I have also read before, which again, I think it's much easier for me to point out these things because I'm not concerned about understanding the plot. I'm concerned about finding those little symbolic nuances in the text. Let me go to my Frankenstein. Yeah. The idea of the doppelganger that we talked about in class wasn't new to me, but I guess I didn't really understand it, which goes back to now looking back on when I was reading Tale of Two Cities. I understand much better because we had talked about this, which I think is the biggest thing that I've learned from this class is not necessarily not realizing things in class, but not knowing the word, the definition, and the purpose for them. I'm learning those now with that giant packet of vocab that we have. And I had written, and I talked to you in class about this too. I had asked in my just notes in the reading journal that I'm taking on Frankenstein, I had said, Walton is like the monster. He wants a deep human connection and relationship with not just his, there's a phone ringing, with not just his shipmates, much like in, I don't think we've gotten this far in the book. The monster wants a wife and a deep connection with someone if it's not his creator. So yeah, just seeing those things of how there's a reason why characters are written a certain way, other than just being characters. I feel like I'm being very repetitive about that fact, but that's how I've seen myself grow. And seeing that a lot in 1984, I think it was just today, I was talking about 1984 with you. Seeing the differences in Julia and Winston and how they're exposing things about each other. How they're both in the same situation and they're in it together. Where they're trying, basically just having sex to defy the party. But Julia does it because she can. She's not doing it because she actually cares about the downfall of the party, where Winston very much cares. It's plaguing him in an ethical and emotional turmoil. And I feel like, as I had said today to you in class, that Julia's apathy and nonchalantness about just their whole relationship just makes Winston's not passion, but just concern for it so much more evident. The fact that he's so concerned is really reflected off of the fact that Julia doesn't care. And also how emotionally, I feel like Julia's a little stunted, where Winston feels things very, very deeply to a point where it's almost an issue. So just how these two characters juxtapose each other and how it speaks to the book as a whole. And I had asked you about this. I had talked about, I reread Between Shades of Grey by Ruta Skeptis every December with one of my friends, and seeing things in certain characters that I'd never seen before, specifically in Andreas and Nikolai, two of the male characters. They're very alike, and realizing now they are each other's foils in a way, in just their situations in life with mothers and certain actions they have, and just their personalities, very tough men on the exterior, and for lack of a better term, teddy bears on the outside, and how these people who are very similar placed in two different situations, how they act, and how it reflects the other's actions. And very minutely, I try not to spoil the book, I hate to be that person, Andreas tells the main character girl to find out the meaning of a word, and Nikolai is the one who actually ends up giving it to her. But won't spend too much time on that. So again, if I haven't said it enough, I feel like this quarter I've gotten much better at seeing the significance behind characters and their actions and their personalities and choices other than just something that moves the plot along. I mean, sometimes characters, the plot is just their purpose. I mean, the ghost in Hamlet, that's all he really did. I'm still very weak in structure and tone, I believe, because in my mind, I really want to have a solid structure. Like, that's, especially in reading these academics essays by Calvino, like, struggled with Calvino, not necessarily in his purpose and what he's trying to say, but, like, how does the structure, like, add to his argument and stuff like that. I think Calvino, my reading journal, it's the most notes I've had on it, if you can see all that fun stuff. I didn't understand it at first, which it's not a bad thing. It's just learning how to do that. So I think that's still my weakness, is how structure and tone and those very formal parts add to the meaning and purpose of the text in general. And I am at 11:30, so I am going to stop. Thank you.